bad enough when a group of people get together and commit a gruesome dastardly deed, but for some reason, it feels even more unsettling when most of it is down to just one particular person. Trust me when I say the things on this list are worse than Harambe plus Cecil, multiplied by that weird stuff you make Sims do. So brace yourself, folks, because here are 7 horrific things done by one single person. In at number 7, the South American Psychopaths. The title of world's worst serial killer is a tough one to call, with 2 candidates showing an equally disturbing resume. But either way, it's a Colombian who gets the gold medal. Having raped, tortured, and murdered at least 147 young boys before being caught in 1999, Luis Garavito easily qualifies for this list. And based on the locations of burial sites he drew in prison, the total is expected to rise to over 300. Garavito's rival is Pedro Lopez, who was sentenced to 1,853 years in prison for murdering and raping 110 young girls, but has confessed to more than 300 in total. Nicknamed the Monster of the Andes, Lopez was committed to a psychiatric hospital in 1983. But if you're thinking these 2 filthy bastards will rot away in jail for rest of their days, think again. Lopez was released in 1998 on good behavior, and because Colombian law allows for a maximum 30-year imprisonment, Garavito's sentence was less than 2% of what it should have been. Also because he helped find his victims' corpses, this was reduced to 22 years, and he may be released even sooner, having also exhibited good behavior. So these guys cleaned their cells, didn't get into any scrapes in prison, helped police find the corpses of people they'd raped and dismembered, and that proves they're good citizens? Number 6, supermarket sweep. On Sunday, August 1st, 2004, in Asunción, Paraguay, folks at the Isa Balano supermarket were going about ordinary business, buying milk, bread, meat, and whatever else Paraguayans eat. I love Paraguay, but I don't know what they like for dinner. Anyway, sometime during the morning, a fire broke out in the supermarket, causing 2 explosions. But with safety procedures in place, that's no big deal. Everyone makes for the fire escape, a little smoke inhalation, and hopefully nobody dies, unless the owner barricades the doors on purpose. As soon as the fire broke out, the store's owner, Juan Pio Paiva, locked the exit shut to stop thieves leaving with his produce, and instructed his son Victor Daniel and security guard Daniel Rico to barricade several others. After a 7-hour fire, this callous act resulted in 394 dead, 9 missing, and 500 injured. Paiva and his son were convicted of involuntary manslaughter, later upgraded to negligent homicide, receiving 12 and 10 years in jail, with the guard receiving a 5-year stretch for not intervening. At number 5, the man who scorched the earth. Thomas Mengele Jr. was an American chemist and mechanical engineer responsible for 2 of the most devastating pollutants man has ever known. So much so that environmental historian J.R. McNeil describes him as having more impact on the atmosphere than any other single organism in history. Oh well, at least he can put that on his Twitter bio. Mengele Jr. pioneered the addition of tetraethyl lead into gasoline. But as a chemist, Mengele Jr. knew how dangerous this was. He himself took a vacation from work 2 years later to cure himself of lead poisoning. And since its widespread introduction, high levels of atmospheric lead have caused serious health problems for children around the world. Lead is also known to impair many neurological functions, including the ability to act calmly and reasonably, with the recent reduction of lead pollution in major cities contributing to a huge worldwide drop in violent crime. But Mengele's other invention, CFCs, still affect us today. CFCs were used as coolants in refrigerators and aerosols, and their prevalence has been blamed for the depleted ozone layer and the accumulation of greenhouse gases responsible for climate change today. Well, gee, thanks, Megerino. You've doomed us all. Number 4. The Prince of Pain. The 15th century Wallachian Prince Vlad the Impaler was also known by another name, Vlad Dracula. And this isn't because people thought he resembled the infamous blood-sucking vampire. It's because he was him. Dracula was Vlad III's genuine surname, and his horrific campaign of torture across Eastern Europe earns the prince a place on this list without question. Despite being both a prince and a military leader, Vlad Dracula directly involved himself in the maiming and murder of over 100,000 people, if not more, with his favorite method being the forcing of a greased-up spike through the victim's anus until it ripped through their body and came out their mouth. Sounds delicious. This punishment was even inflicted on children and animals, and despite the fact Vlad's men could easily have taken care of this for him, Vlad insisted on being involved personally. He often cut off his victims' genitals while still alive as a delightful little keepsake, and liked nothing more than eating, drinking, and making love around the bodies of the dead. He roasted children and forced their parents to eat them, murdered his own wife, and had her sexual organs removed. And of course, being Dracula, he enjoyed a nice refreshing tall glass of blood now and then, which is somehow the least awful thing on this list. 3. A Nation's Extinction. In 1549, Spaniard Diego de Landa was one of the first Franciscan monks to arrive in Yucatan, now part of modern-day Mexico. Landa was instructed to bring Roman Catholicism to the Mayans, but if you think he was going to knock on doors and hold a church outreach session, you're sadly mistaken, because Diego de Landa made his inglorious bastard namesake Hans look like Mother Teresa. At first, it seemed Landa was a decent fella. He often broke up ritual human sacrifices in order to teach the Mayans the error of their ways. But as time went on, Landa spread Roman Catholicism across Yucatan through the process of Inquisition, using enslavement, brutal torture, and mass murder to beat the Mayans into religious submission. And if that wasn't enough, he also authorized the burning of almost all of the Mayans' literature, obliterating one of the few written records of pre-Columbian society in South America. So thanks to one deranged zealot, the Mayans not only lost their future, we also lost their entire history too. Number 2. Anders Behring Breivik. There have been plenty of lone wolf terrorists around the world who have committed atrocities. Timothy McVeigh single-handedly killed 168 people with the Oklahoma City bombing, and early 2016, Omar Mateen murdered 49 people based on a warped ideology and his hatred for gay people. But Anders Behring Breivik makes our list ahead of them, because in a world where adults on both sides make messed-up decisions, he decided to target young, innocent children. Posing as a police officer, Breivik murdered 77 people and injured 100 in 2 attacks in 2011, starting with a car bomb at the Norwegian government headquarters in Oslo and following that up an hour later with a one-man invasion of the island of Utøya. Here, a summer camp of the Youth Workers League was being held, and children as young as 14 ran for their lives from the crazed fascist terrorist. Local residents commandeered a flotilla of boats to rescue bleeding and dying children from the surrounding water at great risk to themselves. But despite their heroic efforts, in 90 minutes, Breivik massacred 77 of them, most of whom were between 14 and 18 years old. Breivik committed this atrocity as opposition to various movements including Islam and feminism. Wow, that sure showed them. And after his capture, was sentenced to 21 years in prison, Norway's maximum sentence, with extensions allowed so long as he's deemed a threat. What's terrifying, though, is that after undergoing psychiatric evaluation, it was found that he was not at all psychotic during the attacks, which means that when Anders Behring Breivik gunned down all those innocent children, he knew exactly what he was doing. And at number 1, Dr. Joseph Mengele. Only one person was going to top this list, and that is SS officer and physician Dr. Joseph Mengele. Stationed at Auschwitz during World War II, Mengele was personally responsible for some of the most horrific human experiments in history, taking a specific interest in young children and twins. His torturous acts often involved the injection of deadly diseases, horrific beatings, prolonged starvation, and repeated mutilation. Mengele's records also show he frequently injected chemicals into children's eyes, amputated their limbs, and often killed the healthy siblings of a dead twin as a control study. Need more evidence? Really? Okay then. Joseph Mengele tried repeatedly to swap blood from one twin to the other, and even stitched two Romani children together to create artificial conjoined twins. Unsurprisingly, they died of gangrene after a few days of agony. On one occasion, Mengele killed 14 twins in one night, and in total experimented on 1,000, with a fifth of them dying at his hands. Mengele left Auschwitz as the Soviet Red Army approached in May 1945, fleeing in secret to South America, where he remained a free man for the rest of his life. There isn't a great deal of evidence as to what he did here before he drowned in 1979, but based on the mysteriously large number of twins born in the Brazilian village Candido Godoy, a village where Mengele is believed to have visited, there's a strong possibility Joseph Mengele's work did not end at Auschwitz. Wow, I need something a little lighter after that list. If you do too, why not check out our recent video on the 7 strangest alien encounters? One guy had a cookout, another got laid. It's good for what ails you.